Hello and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is The Eagle Who Found Home, Mexico City's 700-year sign. Long, long ago, almost 700 years before you were born, a people called the Mexica wandered through the valleys of Mexico. They had no home. They walked and walked through deserts and mountains following a dream. Their god, Huitzilopochtli, the sun god and god of war, had whispered to their leaders in the night, "Go find the sign. When you see it, build your city there." But what was the sign? The leaders gathered their people and said, "We must search for an eagle. Not just any eagle, a golden one standing on a cactus, holding a snake in its mouth." A child named Citlali, who was 7 years old, asked her grandmother, "Will we ever find it?" Her grandmother smiled, even though her feet were tired and dusty. "The sun god does not lie. We will find it." Year after year, the Mexica walked. The sun burned their shoulders brown. Rain soaked their clothes. They crossed rivers that were as cold as starlight. Some people wanted to stop. "Maybe we should stay here," they said, pointing to a green valley. But the leaders shook their heads. "No, we must find the eagle. That is our destiny." Citlali walked beside her grandmother, holding her hand. At night, when they camped by fires that smelled of smoke and roasted corn, Citlali would look up at the stars. "Do you think the eagle is out there watching us?" she asked. "I think," her grandmother said, "the eagle is waiting for us to be ready." One morning, after nearly 175 years of walking, the Mexica people reached a vast lake. The water was wide and still. Mist rose from it like the breath of sleeping giants. The air smelled of wet reeds and fish. This was Lake Texcoco. The people stopped at its shore and looked across the water. Citlali, now she was much older, with gray in her hair, stood beside her great-great-granddaughter, a girl also named Citlali. "Look," the old woman whispered, "the lake is waiting. The sign must be here." The men built canoes from reeds and wood. They paddled across the water, searching every island, every hidden cove where birds nested. Days passed. The sun climbed high and sank low. Still, they saw no eagle. Then one afternoon, when the light turned golden and soft, a scout paddled back to shore, his arms shaking. "Come," he called. "Come now. Bring everyone." The people rushed to the water's edge. They filled canoes with children, with elders, with baskets of food. As they paddled toward a small island, the air grew quiet. Even the birds stopped singing, and then they saw it. There, on a rocky outcrop in the center of the island, stood a golden eagle. Its feathers caught the sun and glowed like fire. The eagle's sharp eyes looked down at them. In its powerful talons, it gripped a snake, long and green and twisting. And beneath the eagle's feet, growing from the stone itself, was a cactus. Its leaves were thick and green, covered in white flowers. Citlali's great-great-granddaughter gasped. "Is it real?" she whispered. "It is real," Citlali said, tears running down her weathered face. "We found it." The sun god kept his promise. The people wept and laughed and sang. They had finally found their home. The Mexica people did not wait. They knew what they had to do. With their hands and their strength, they began to build. They made boats from reeds and wood. They scooped mud from the lake bottom and piled it on the island. They planted seeds, corn, beans, and more cactus plants. They built temples with stone and clay. They carved canals through the water so boats could move like fish between the buildings. They called their new city Tenochtitlan. It meant the place of the cactus stone. As the years passed, Tenochtitlan grew. It became so beautiful that people from other lands would travel for weeks just to see it. There were gardens that floated on the water. There were markets where people traded feathers, obsidian, and salt. There were temples so tall they seemed to touch the clouds. and everywhere. On shields, on walls, on cloth, the people painted the image of the eagle, the snake, and the cactus. It became their story. It became their pride. Citlali lived to see her great-great-great-grandchildren play in the streets of Tenochtitlan. She would sit in the shade of a stone wall and smile. "Do you know why we are here?" she would ask the children. "Because of the eagle." They would answer, "Yes," she would say. "Because we listened, because we believed, because we were patient enough to walk for 175 years. Many centuries have passed since that golden afternoon by Lake Texcoco. Tenochtitlan is no longer there. It became Mexico City, a huge metropolis with cars and buildings that touch the sky, but the sign remains. If you go to Mexico City today, you will see something amazing. Look at the Mexican flag right in the center. There is an eagle. It stands on a cactus. In its talons, it holds a snake. It is the same eagle, the same cactus, the same snake that the Mexica people saw 700 years ago. The golden eagle in the flag is real. It is called the golden eagle, or Aquila chrysaetos in the language of scientists. Today, about 600 pairs of these magnificent birds still live wild in Mexico. They have dark feathers that shimmer like bronze. Their eyes are sharp and fierce. They hunt snakes and small animals in the mountains and deserts. When you see one flying high in the sky with its wings spread wide, you are seeing a descendant of the eagle that guided the Mexica home. The cactus is real too. It is the prickly pear cactus, the nopal. It grows all over Mexico. Its fruit is sweet and red. Mexicans eat it in salads and drinks. And the snake, it represents the challenges that every person in every city must overcome. The eagle defeats it not with cruelty, but with strength and purpose. So when you look at Mexico's flag, green, white, and red, remember this. It is not just a flag, it is a story. It is the story of a people who walked for 175 years without losing hope. It is the story of a girl named Citlali and her grandmother who believed in a promise they could not yet see. It is the story of patience, faith, and a city born from a sign in the sky. And if you ever visit Mexico City, you might hear the cry of a golden eagle echoing over the rooftops. When you do, you will know that eagle is still guiding people home. And so, the old town also slowly fell asleep. Good night.